Good afternoon. The Prime Minister has just arrived at the White House mere minutes ago for his first meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump.
It comes at a moment of high stakes between the two countries, currently involved in a trade war, with the president openly musing about annexing Canada. CTV's Joy Malbon is live at the White House this noon hour, where the two leaders are meeting. Joy, this is a meeting being watched closely. Tell us what's expected.
Yeah. A lot is riding on this after some very serious tensions between Canada and the U.S. with these punishing tariffs. I got to tell you, though, we're getting a lot of mixed signals. I mean, at first, I was told by the White House, no bells and whistles, just like a regular world leader arriving. But there was an honorary military guard to greet the Prime Minister. Even Norway didn't get that. And then there was this lovely handshake, really nice handshake. But just before, Donald Trump posted on Truth Social, slamming Canada, saying, look, I very much want to work with the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, but I can't understand one simple truth. Why is America subsidizing Canada by $200 billion a year? That's not true. In addition to giving them free military protection. We don't need their cars, their energy, their lumber. We just need their friendship. What a way to start a meeting. Very contentious, slamming Canada. It's going to be interesting to see how the Prime Minister stands up to that, and also the threat of this 51st state. The Prime Minister, or the President, has not given up on this rhetoric. Just on Sunday, he was saying, yeah, we should take them over. You know, we'd make a beautiful country. So it's going to be interesting how they can reset this relationship. Certainly from Canada's point of view, they want to get to some kind of agreement. What can they agree on when it comes to trade, when it comes to security, intelligence, those kinds of things? What can we get out of this one-hour meeting? Can it be a start and then continue on with negotiations?
Yeah, what do you make of these mixed signals, this really great greeting and yet this bizarre post?
You know, maybe this is the art of the deal, the strategy that Donald Trump employs, you know, bashing your opponent, but then greeting them with nice smiles, handshakes, fist up, that kind of thing, thumbs up to the waiting press. You know, maybe it's a strategy saying, look, I'm standing my ground, I'm going to be tough. But, you know, I really wonder, and I'd love to be a fly on the wall, how does the Prime Minister explain to Donald Trump that there isn't a deficit of $200 billion? And look, maybe he's got, something he can talk about, military defense. Certainly, the Prime Minister says he wants to up Canada's defense spending with NATO. Maybe there's something they can get to, but this has got to be a reset of the relationship right away. But to slam them at first, I don't know. It must be some strategy of the art of the deal that I'm unaware of.
Perhaps. Any idea how long this meeting might last?
Yeah, they've set aside about an hour for a closed-door lunch where they can discuss bilateral issues, tariffs, intelligence sharing, security, those kinds of things, even tourism. I mean, certainly the U.S. has been hit hard by Canadians refusing to come here and feeling not wanted and insulted by this 51st state stuff. I'm pretty sure the president's going to bring that up, and I'd love to be a fly on the wall to find out how the Prime Minister deals with that. How do you set him straight and still, kind of say, look, we're trading partners. We got to do this. We can be friends on certain things. But yeah, after the 1 hour lunch, then we will have this Oval Office photo op. And that's when the press can ask questions. That's when we can see some body language. Look for the tone and the vibe of the meeting. Is there praise? Is there flattery like past leaders have done? Or does Trump dominate or even bully like he did with Ukraine's President Zelensky? It's going to be fascinating to watch.
Yeah, we're all waiting to find out. CTV's Joy Malbon live at the White House this noon hour. Thank you. And as the Prime Minister meets with the President, newly elected Conservatives are meeting on Parliament Hill for the first time since the election. We'll have a live report from Ottawa in minutes. But first, here at home, a man was rushed to hospital with serious injuries this morning after a stabbing near Dufferin and Eglinton.
Neighbors say they heard an altercation just after 8 this morning. Our Janice Goulding spoke with some of those neighbors and joins us live at the scene with the latest. What can you tell us, Janice?
Hi, Michelle. I can tell you that neighbors on this quiet residential street near Dufferin and Eglinton say they're quite disturbed by what happened in their midst this morning. Now, many who didn't want to appear on camera did tell CTV News that the home where the stabbing occurred appears to be some form of transitional housing and is inhabited by a group of men. Now, some say there have been occasions where they've seen the occupants yelling and becoming aggressive. Toronto paramedics say they were called to the scene just before 8:45 a.m. and when emergency responders arrived on scene, they discovered one man who'd been stabbed. He was taken to hospital with serious, potentially life-threatening injuries. At this point, we don't know the relationship of the men involved in this altercation, but police have confirmed they have taken one man into custody. Here is more from neighbors in the area.
We left to walk the dogs about maybe 8:15. It sounded like two men arguing on the front porch.
You know what, I came out this morning and I just saw the police and the ambulance and the fire trucks and all the commotion. That's all that we know, really.
Really wasn't aware that it happened until I saw the police cruisers outside the window this morning. It is disturbing.
So again, some neighbors say they did hear an altercation at the home about a half hour before police were called to the scene. The investigation is ongoing. Reporting live from Janice Goulding. Now back to Michelle and Nathan.
Thank you, Janice. More news in a moment, but first we take a live look at our city this afternoon. There is a bit of sunshine out there, definitely some clouds, decent temperatures after a good dose of rain overnight. Lindsay Morrison is here with a look at what's happening this hour. Lindsay.
Well, Michelle, all is dry on the radar right now in the GTA, but I'm going to step aside so you can see that we do still have some cloud, even a little bit of fog still dissipating in some areas. And as we take a wider look at the radar, you'll notice that this low pressure system, a very slow-moving one, continues to circulate, and as a result, rain still expected today in eastern sections of the province, along with areas farther north, and we're likely to see maybe another passing shower or two before that system finally departs. But overall, it's a drier day. Winds out of the south, that's driving our temperature up. We're at 16 degrees right now, and this afternoon looks pretty pleasant for spending time outside. 19 is the forecast high. Coming up, we'll take you through the next couple of days, including we're going to talk about a run of sun that's in store for the end of the week. That's still ahead. For now, Nathan, over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. City officials provided an update on Toronto's infrastructure backlog this morning, saying from roads to transit, they're making significant progress, but a budget shortfall remains. The city provided an update on its corporate asset management plan. It identified an $18 billion funding gap, and that's down from $26 billion just a year ago, due in part to the province taking over the Gardiner Expressway and Don Valley Parkway. The state of good repair infrastructure gap is largely driven by transit, followed by Toronto community housing, roads, and city facilities.
We need our roads, water lines, TCC tracks to be safe and reliable for Torontonians. We also, in this difficult economic times, needs to build so that we can create jobs and stimulate the economy. So we are announcing in this presentation $8 billion more towards fixing our city and stop the deterioration now.
The report also found that 80% of the city's assets are in fair to good condition. The plan will go before the Executive Committee and City Council later this month. To Queen's Park, where Ontario's Premier is keeping his eye on today's meeting between the Prime Minister and President.
As CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris reports, Doug Ford is pushing ahead with his plan to protect Ontario jobs.
He's the man knocking the Premier off his prepared speech at the Skills Ontario competition.
This guy drives me nuts. I just get wound up.
Frustrated by the chaos the U.S. president has unleashed, Doug Ford spotlighted Donald Trump's sinking poll numbers.
I can't wait for the midterms, then we'll fix his little red wagon.
In the face of tariff uncertainty, Ontario is seeing job losses, businesses holding back on investment.
That's why our government has a plan to protect Ontario. And I've always said we're going to protect our workers, we're going to protect their jobs, we're going to protect communities and families, and I will not spare a penny to do it. Right, Peter?
A nod to the finance minister delivering his budget next week. It will include new money for the skilled trades.
Starting this year, our government is investing $1 billion on top of the $1.5 billion, so total $2.5 billion in the training and the capital streams of our Skills Development Fund.
Making good on a promise from this winter's election campaign.
Across the province, the workers being trained through this funding will get the skills and experience they need to build and protect Ontario, all while enjoying the dignity of a hard-earned paycheck.
The day after the Premier of Alberta vowed to make it easier to hold a referendum to give that province independence, Doug Ford says this is a moment to unite the country, not talk about leaving it. At Queen's Park, Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
Alberta Premier Danielle Smith will speak to the media today, a day after she outlined how her government plans to work with the federal government following the Liberal election win.
Until I see tangible proof of real change, Alberta will be taking steps to better protect ourselves from Ottawa.
Smith is calling on Ottawa to remove what she says are federal barriers to Alberta's prosperity. She also announced the launch of a panel to explore options for economical and constitutional protections from Ottawa and is proposing holding a referendum on some of the key proposals that emerge from those discussions. But she stressed the UCP government will not be putting a vote on separation on the referendum.
However, if there is a successful citizen-led referendum petition that is able to gather the requisite number of signatures requesting such a question to be put on a referendum, our government will respect the democratic process and include that question on the 2026 provincial referendum ballot as well.
Smith says she does not support Alberta separating from Canada, but she says a growing number of Albertans are unhappy with Confederation and are organizing petitions to push for an exit.
A painstaking search for two missing children in northeastern Nova Scotia is into its 5th day. Police believe 6-year-old Lily Sullivan and her 4-year-old brother Jack wandered away from their rural home in Lansdowne Station on Friday morning. They have not been seen or heard from since. Crews have been focusing their search on a 3.5-kilometer radius of wooded area. And CTV's Scott Hirsch joins us live with more on this story. Scott, can you talk about the scope of the search for the missing kid and what's being done to find them?
Nathan, good afternoon. Truly a heartbreaking situation coming out of northern Nova Scotia as the expansive search continues for 6-year-old Lily Sullivan and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan. There are multiple agencies now involved in the search and rescue effort, ground search and rescue teams, RCMP as well. And at times there are more than 150 people searching on the ground, doing everything they can to find these two children and putting up markers in areas that they have been in this vast wilderness to make sure that they're not wasting time backtracking. There's a lot of search going on the ground, but also in the air, helicopters and drones. We heard from RCMP overnight that 4 drones with infrared technology were deployed through the darkness so that the search could continue as much as it could through the night hours. And now the search continues for this 5th day. Unfortunately, still no sign of these 2 young children. Here's more from RCMP, the latest on this search effort.
It has been a few days, but that has not dampened the hopes of the GSAR teams and the police who are here to try and get these kids home. There's teams and units from the RCMP who have a variety of different tasks to be completed. So there's work being done across all sorts of areas in order to collect the information needed to locate them.
Nathan, according to RCMP, it is believed these 2 children wandered away from their home in a rural area of Pictou County, Nova Scotia. That is northern Nova Scotia, northeast of Halifax at this time. They don't believe that there's any information to suggest that they were abducted. But in the meantime, the search continues, Nathan.
And what about the emotional toll? The search must be having a major impact on those in the area.
Yeah, we're hearing from family members. Obviously, this is heartbreaking, and family members are doing everything they can to remain hopeful that there will be a positive outcome in this case to find these 2 missing children, even though it has been several days now. We've heard recently from the stepfather who said he's been a part of the search, screaming at the top of his lungs, hoping that these 2 children will be able to hear it. We're also hearing from the children's mother, and she says she's doing everything she can to stay positive. Here's more from the children's mother.
I miss them. I just want to remain hopeful. But there's always in a mother's mind, you're always thinking the worst.
Hopeful, as you heard from the mother. Now, I do want to give viewers a description. Obviously, viewers here are in Toronto, but if there's anyone that might know someone out there that could pass this description along, that could obviously help. Now, RCMP described Lily as having shoulder-length light brown hair with bangs, and she might have been wearing a pink sweater, pink pants, and pink boots. Now, 4-year-old Jack is described as having short blondish hair and was potentially wearing blue dinosaur boots. Unfortunately, that is the only clothing description that is available for 4-year-old Jack as they continue to search for 6-year-old Lily and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan.
All right, CTV's Scott Hurst with the very latest on the search for those missing children.
All right,
Nova Scotia.
We've got some breaking news now. We take you to the White House where there you can see Prime Minister Mark Carney and the President are now meeting in the Oval Office. Let's have a look. Let's listen in.
But it would be a massive tax cut. And it's also a beautiful, as a real estate developer, I'm a real estate developer at heart. When you get rid of that artificially drawn line, somebody drew that line many years ago with like a ruler, just a straight line right across the top of the country. When you look at that beautiful formation when it's together, I'm a very artistic person, but when I looked at that beauty, I said, that's the way it was meant to be. But, I do feel it's much better for Canada. But we're not going to be discussing that unless somebody wants to discuss it. I think that there are tremendous benefits to the Canadian citizens, tremendously lower taxes, free military, which honestly we give you essentially anyway because we're protecting Canada if you ever had a problem. But I think it would really be a wonderful marriage because it's two places that get along very well. They like each other a lot.
Well, if I may, as you know from real estate, there are some places that are never for sale.
That's true.
We're sitting in one right now, Buckingham Palace that you visited as well.
That's true.
And having met with the owners of Canada over the course of the campaign last several months, it's not for sale, won't be for sale ever. But the opportunity is in the partnership and what we can build together. And we have done that in the past. And part of that, as the President just said, is with respect to our own security. And my government is committed for a step change in our investment in Canadian security and our partnership. And I'll say this as well, that the President has revitalized international security, revitalized NATO, and us playing our full weight in NATO, and that will be part of it.
And they have, I must say, Canada is stepping up the military participation because Mark knew, they were low and now they're stepping it up, and that's a very important thing. But never say never. Never say never.
What would it take to get the tariffs off of Canada?
Well, we'll be talking about different things. We want to protect our automobile business, and so does Mark. But we want to make the automobiles, and we want to, we have a tremendous abundance of energy, more than any country. We have just in Alaska. But we want to make the automobiles, and we want to, we have a tremendous abundance of energy, more than any country. We have, just in Alaska alone, ANWR's been reopened now. ANWR's probably the largest find anywhere in the world. They say it's larger than Saudi Arabia. I don't know, but it's a lot. But we have tremendous amounts of energy. Other countries don't. We're both lucky in that way. They have energy. We have energy. We have more than we can ever use and more than we could ever sell, actually. And you have the same thing. So we're two countries that are very lucky. If you look at China, they don't have that. It's a big disadvantage. Other countries, most countries don't have. Most countries don't have that. So Canada and us, we have a lot of advantages over other places.
When you consider what Mr. Carney just said, that Canada is not for sale, does this make the discussion a little more difficult to start on?
No, not at all. No, not at all. No, time will tell. It's only time. But I say, never say never. I've had many, many things that were not doable, and they ended up being doable, and only doable in a very friendly way. But if it's to everybody's benefit, Canada loves us and we love Canada. That's, I think, the number one thing that's important. But we'll see. I mean, over time, we'll see what happens.
Mr. President,
China.
I was hoping you could clarify something. Earlier this
Secretary Bessent said that there had been no negotiations yet with China. You have said something different.
They want to meet, and they're doing no business right now. And those ships are turning around in the Pacific Ocean. Big turn. Those are big
All right,
ships.
as the discussion
Those
turns
ships
to
take about 10 miles
China,
to turn.
we will tell you, you are watching a big meeting at the White House. Newly elected Prime Minister Mark Carney and President Trump. Very interesting so far. President Trump talking about the 51st state stuff right out the gate. However, Mark Carney did respond with some places are never for sale and Canada is not for sale ever. So he did that diplomatically. Very interesting, some positive stuff from Trump saying Canada is stepping up. Canada loves the U.S. and we love Canada. So relatively amicable at this stage, despite what's been said in the past. They're going to be talking about cars and energy, and really, this is just the beginning. This is for the cameras, so we'll have to wait and see what happens with their discussions today. But we know this is a high-stakes meeting, and there is a lot at stake amid this tariff war. Canadians' jobs are on the line, and our prosperity as well. We'll leave it there, and we'll turn our attention to the newly elected Conservatives who are meeting on Parliament Hill for the first time today since last week's election loss to the Liberals.
We didn't get over the finish line, which means that I need to learn and grow, and our team needs to expand. That will be my mission.
We didn't get over the finish line, which means that I need to learn and grow. And sorry, that's what he was saying there. Leader Pierre Poilievre, who lost his seat in the election, posted this video to social media yesterday saying the party has a lot to be thankful for, including added seats and a higher vote total. Now, without a seat, Poilievre will not be in the House of Commons when it sits later this month, but he says he wants to continue leading the party. We bring in CTV's Colton Prale live in Ottawa this noon hour with more. And Colton, what can we expect from today's Conservative caucus meeting? Definitely the Conservatives had some wins on election night last week, but also with the leader losing his seat, might Poilievre's leadership be challenged?
Yeah, a couple things there. So first off, interesting atmosphere in this meeting. Certainly speaking with some of the MPs on their way to the washroom or in between breaks of this meeting. It's currently still ongoing. Very jubilant start. Generally, there is a lot of excitement over the progress and the wins that they did make, expanding their share of the popular vote, picking up more seats. There are reasons for them to celebrate, but there is also an acknowledgement that they didn't cross the finish line, that at the end of the day, they are still serving as the opposition government, and that wasn't the goal. That wasn't what was hoped for from this election, and so there does need to be changes. And I think it's really interesting hearing from Conservative MPs where they think those changes need to be, or specifically the lack of answers with regards to where they'd like those changes to be. It's going to be a big part of the discussion today, taking a broader look at what needs to happen during this next session of Parliament so that they can do better in the next election, whenever that might come. And one of the things that we did hear from MPs and certainly from Pierre Poilievre is that talk of needing to expand their message, reach out to new people. They did well enough to get the best election result they've had as far as a share of the vote since the 80s, but it wasn't enough to form government. So how do you build that party even larger, especially in a political system that certainly looks like it's going to be a two-party system, at least for the next little while, due to how poor the NDP showed up in this latest election. One MP I was speaking to said it wouldn't surprise him if we're in this two-plus party system for the next decade. And obviously that changes the political landscape significantly, and how the Conservatives react to that is going to be something to watch for. They haven't offered any real certainty or specifics with regards to what needs to change, only that obviously something does, because what they were giving wasn't working, or it didn't work well enough for them to be able to form government. The other element to all of this, of course, is, as you asked, Pierre Poilievre's future. What happens to him? Speaking with MPs, it doesn't seem like he's in jeopardy. That's two-part. One, there's really no person waiting in the wings at this point in time. But two, it does seem as though some of the frustration is being pushed past him into his campaign manager, Jenny Byrne, who had a very tight control over the way things were run, over the amount of publicity and public speaking that MPs were allowed to have with their constituents, but also with media. There were some frustrations there. There were frustrations around the nomination process. It'll be really interesting to see what happens to her, because when she lost in 2015 with Stephen Harper, that was essentially it. She was out in the cold for the Conservatives. She came back with Pierre Poilievre when he became the leader in 2022. there were a lot of decisions made that kept that power centralized at the top, and it was working when they had a 27-point lead in the polls and when they were projected to win over 200 seats. Those frustrations come to the surface, though, when you lose the election. And so what happens with her future is a big one to watch. MPs would not comment on it, saying that is the leader's decision to make, one saying they trust his judgment with regards to that. But we did hear Poilievre saying he wants to have a larger team around him.
CTV's Colton Prale live for us in Ottawa. Thank you.
Meantime, the federal NDP has named a new interim leader. BC MP Don Davies takes over the reins from Jagmeet Singh, who stepped down after he lost his own seat in the Burnaby Central election. The NDP also lost official party status. Details of a leadership contest are expected at a later date.
Vatican officials and support staff involved in tomorrow's conclave have taken the oath of secrecy.
Così Dio mi aiuti e questi santi evangeli che tocco con la mia mano.
While cardinals themselves will take oaths at the Sistine Chapel tomorrow, support staff took their vows at the nearby Pauline Chapel. The oath is mandatory. 133 cardinals from 70 countries will be voting, making this conclave the largest ever. They will be sequestered in a hotel tomorrow and barred from contact with the outside world. The election could last hours or days or more. CTV's Adrian Gabriel is live for us in Vatican City with the very latest. Adrian, take us through what has taken place today and what we can expect into tomorrow when the conclave begins.
Yeah, Michelle, there's been 3 meetings held between all of the cardinals over the last 2 days, the third of which took place today. Multiple discussions, according to sources inside the Vatican, talking about the direction of the church, concerns over the division of the church. Perhaps some of that division stemming from the direction that Pope Francis took the church, though. Also discussions about, from many cardinals, about wanting to continue with that progressive nature, that path that Pope Francis laid out during his time as Pope before his passing. And as you just referenced as well, very soon they will be cut off from the outside world. We're expecting at about 4 p.m. local time tomorrow. They will enter the Sistine Chapel. On day 1 of the conclave, there was just 1 ballot vote. Now, we're not expecting a pope to be selected on day 1. During that 1 ballot, there might be lots of names tossed in there, some out of respect for certain cardinals, though we are expecting there, for those at least inside, to get an understanding of who some of the front runners might be.
And let's talk a bit about that. So much discussion, and you know, people always don't get it right, but who are considered the front runners at this stage to become the next pope?
Yeah, there's 2 big names that have been surfacing for a number of days now from here in Italy. Cardinal Parolin, considered to be a bit more conservative than Pope Francis, especially when it comes to LGBTQ issues. There's also from the Philippines, Cardinal Tagle, who some have called the Asian Francis because of his infectious smile, because of his demeanor and his ability to connect with people, though those are just 2 names. And through the gatherings today into tomorrow, when they enter the Sistine Chapel, other names are sure to rise to the surface as well.
And we know you'll be following it. CTV's Adrian Gabriel live in Vatican City with a front row seat to history. We look forward to your coverage. Thank you. Well, back here at home, we have to talk about the big win for the Leafs last night to start their 2nd round series against the Florida Panthers.
But there are some questions today about the health of goalie Anthony Stolarz, who left the game on a stretcher after taking an elbow to the head and a puck to the face. CTV's Sean Leathong is at the Leafs practice facility where players have just spoken to the media. Everybody's worried about Stolarz.
That's right, Nathan, and he remains questionable for tomorrow's game. We do know he spent some time in the hospital, but first let's look back on the start that the Leafs had last night. Now, going into their series against the Florida Panthers, we didn't know how the Leafs would fare against the defending Stanley Cup champions, but they got off to a tremendous start. Take a look.
The Leafs are going to get the puck out in center, and Nyes has a breakaway. He's in a goal. Scores! Holy mackerel, what a goal!
So after jumping out to a 2-0 lead early in the game, Florida seemed to fight back, but you see that goal right there from Matthew Nyes in the 3rd period, pulling the team ahead 5-3. Florida would get 1 back, but the Leafs would hang on for the victory. But from there was an issue in the 2nd period. Starting goalie Anthony Stolarz went down after making contact with Florida Panthers forward Sam Bennett. There was some question about whether Bennett would possibly be suspended today, because we know Stolarz left the game, went to the hospital, and was being evaluated, but there will be no supplemental discipline. discipline for Bennett. And as you mentioned off the top, Stolarz also took a puck to the helmet in the first period, so there is questions as to whether or not he sustained a concussion. Now, backup Joseph Woll did jump in for the Leafs last night, securing the victory for the team. As far as we know, there is no word yet on whether Anthony Stolarz or Joseph Woll will be available for Game 2 tomorrow. Now, a little earlier on, some of the players were talking about just what they saw last night, what they felt about the contact with Florida Panthers forward Sam Bennett, and whether they thought that there should be any supplemental discipline. Here's what they had to say.
You know what? It happened. It's we're focused on our group in here and sticking together. And we knew that there would be a lot of emotions in this series, and there certainly was for Game 1. And we have to play with emotions, but we also have to be smart about it. And this group has stuck together and stood up for one another and played for one another all year, and this is going to be another example of that.
I think he's doing well. I'll allow Coach to give any updates on that, but overall, I like the way that he looked this morning when I got to see him for a smile at breakfast, so that's always a good thing.
He's doing well. Yeah, he's here. He's doing good. So, yeah.
Will he be available tomorrow night?
We'll see. Don't know that yet. I'm moved on from it. Yeah, I don't want to talk about it. It's over.
One person who did talk about it today is Florida Panthers forward Sam Bennett. Now, you may remember that Anthony Stolarz was actually a member of the Florida Panthers last year when they won the Stanley Cup, and Sam Bennett said that he's a great friend of Anthony Stolarz and did not intend any contact on the play, and that he reached out to Stolarz last night because you don't want to see an injury like that. Nevertheless, that storyline has found its way into the series. The Leafs are up 1-0. Game 2 going tomorrow night. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leathong. I'll send it back inside.
Thanks very much, Sean. And I want to talk about the fact that it's going to be drier, warmer, and sunnier over the next few days here. But for those who suffer from seasonal allergies, you might notice an uptick in your responses to that. Here's the pollen report. Still very low at this time, but again, that is expected to change. Tonight's low is expected to be around 12 degrees, still on the warmer side of seasonal. 8 is our average overnight low at this time of year. It is going to be a little chilly tomorrow night, and that makes way for a cool start on Thursday, but that also marks the start of a run of sun. All of those details after this break here on CTV News at noon. Stay with us.
All right, time now for a check on the forecast. And, I mean, overall, things are looking okay for the next few days. Pretty good.
I like the fact that Lindsay was talking about the stretch of sunshine that we can look forward to, although a little bit unsettled. But nothing as bad, it sounds like, as what we had yesterday.
Yeah, it's pretty good over the next couple of days. It's going to take us these 2 days to really get into full areas of high pressure, and that means lots of sunshine. We deserve it. It's been a little bit of an unsettled end to the month of April and start to May. But yeah, I think you're going to like the weekend forecast especially. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm Injury Lawyers. You don't pay unless they win. We had all that rain last night, and then this morning, as expected, it was pretty foggy. Advisories were issued for many different parts of the GTA. As you can see, visibility was reduced significantly on the roadways. Hopefully everyone was able to travel safely this morning. Some of that fog is still in the process of burning off, but it will dissipate as we progress through this afternoon. And believe it or not, we are still dealing with this lingering area of low pressure. This is what it looks like on the satellite and radar. We're sort of in the center of it right now, so we're getting a break from the precipitation. Still a little bit of cloud cover and, as mentioned, some fog, but notice that arc there. As this low continues to rotate and gradually make its way eastward, we're likely to encounter maybe another round of showers here over the next day or so. So the potential is going to be there through today and through tomorrow before things really dry out into the day on Thursday. So here's what we're predicting at this point. A pretty unsettled day today and for part of tomorrow overall in eastern sections of Ontario. So really from Kingston eastward. There's tomorrow morning around 9 a.m. Right now, models are indicating that we could get a quick passing shower, and then the cloud cover is going to break up, and we will enjoy a nice Wednesday afternoon. That's after a pretty nice afternoon today as well. Then heading into Thursday, notice how the cloud cover breaks up even more, and especially by Thursday afternoon, we are looking at clear skies and we can hang on to those for Friday and right through the weekend as well. It's looking pretty good. 13 degrees this hour in Windsor, so a little bit cooler. It's 20 degrees, however, in Ottawa, so a little bit warmer there. 17 for us this hour in the city of Toronto. Forecasting a daytime high of 19. 17 is seasonal. We're expected to be a little bit warmer than that. Great evening to maybe head out for an evening stroll. Again, as mentioned, just be mindful of the fact that we're calling it a 30% chance of showers for today. Winds are pretty light. Tomorrow morning around 8 a.m., the temperature will be in the teens. Then the winds are going to change direction through the day, and that's going to send our temperature tumbling for tomorrow night. And as a result, we go from 20 degrees on Wednesday to a high of only 14 on Thursday, so a little cooler than normal. However, look at all that sunshine into the weekend, and by Saturday, we're up around 23 degrees, and at this point, it looks like 20 degrees for Sunday. That's the weather for now. Nathan, over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. May is National Pet Month.
And as part of these celebrations, a local pet food company is teaming up with an area animal rescue organization at Toronto's first canine social collective. And that is where we find CTV's Jessica Smith this noon hour. Tell us more, Jess.
Well, you had me at dogs, Michelle and Nathan, and we are here with Denise and little tiny Callie, one of the pups up for adoption, currently in foster. But Denise, I want to talk to you about your rescue at Maddie's Place, because you guys do such incredible work here in the city, and there are so many animals in need, but you also really have to think about when you bring them into your life that you're the right person and it's the right situation.
Yeah, so, you know, adoption, Callie. Maddie's Place, first of all, is a Canadian dog rescue. So that's our mandate. We have dogs like Callie that come into rescue that is adorable and everybody wants her. Even everyone here said, oh my gosh. But yeah, it's very important to absolutely check, you know, dog profiles, to check their breed, to understand their needs, and trust a rescue when they say that this dog may or may not be a good fit for your lifestyle.
And you guys are getting ready for a really fun event that really helps to support local business and a local rescue. How important is it to have events like this and just have opportunities to support your efforts? Because it's not without a great deal of extra work and a financial burden.
Absolutely amazing that companies like Open Farm, who we've partnered with for over a year now, is hosting an event like the Super Food for Super Dog event that gets our dogs that are, you know, often harder to place in front of more people and a bigger audience so that we can find their perfect homes.
And you have some really interesting profiles. I like how you kind of describe it, almost like a dating profile, because it really is a beautiful relationship you're trying to build. How important is it to find the right pairing for the dog and for the people?
Yeah, it's really important. We want dogs to go into their forever home and not obviously be returned. So though it's a lot of work, and we often get complaints that it takes too much to apply for a dog through rescue when you can just go and buy one, the effort is important to put in so that we can perfectly match you, and then, you know, your dog is home forever and there's no risk of it being returned.
So for someone like Callie, for someone maybe thinking about bringing her home, obviously she's got some unique needs and she's, you know, got a lot of energy. She's been buzzing around here. When it comes to pairing the right person to the right puppy, what would you say to them?
Well, again, trust the rescue. It's important to really read dog profiles and research the breed and really understand what comes with, you know, responsible dog ownership.
Obviously, we're in the city of Toronto and the GTA, really right across Ontario. Lots of pet lovers. You can't really walk down the street without seeing pets out there. For people who are thinking about bringing animals into their lives, why go to a rescue?
Well, we're in a really difficult dog overpopulation crisis right now. We have too many dogs in Ontario and right across Canada, and there's just nowhere for them to go. So, you know, support is down, adoptions are down, donations are down, but there's an ever increase in dogs being abandoned, in dogs being surrendered, and adoption is, you know, really paving a way so that a dog does find a home, isn't at risk of euthanasia, and it allows us to bring another dog into the rescue.
Well, thank you, Denise, so much. You can visit Maddie's Place on their website, on social media. We're going to send things back inside to Nathan.
Thank you.
All right, more news after the break. So cute. Stay with us. We've got to look at the latest home sales numbers in the GTA right after the break. CTV News at noon continues.
If you're selling an expensive item privately, like a car, you may not want to accept cash or a check and instead ask for a bank draft.
Bank drafts are considered a secure way to accept payment, but now criminals are creating fake ones to use in scams. Pat Foran has more in Consumer Alert.
It looks like every other bank draft.
Patrick Bennett of Lancaster, Ontario, runs an excavation business and needed to sell a skid steer. He put the piece of equipment up for sale and was contacted by someone who wanted to buy it.
They were here maybe 20 minutes, asked a few questions, tried it out, and then they loaded up and took off.
The selling price for the skid steer was just over $108,000. Before the buyer came, they agreed payment would be made with a bank draft.
They're comfortable with the situation. Like, there's a receipt from the transaction. He had called from a bank.
Bennett says while he felt the bank draft looked real, he took it to a Scotiabank to ask a teller if it was legitimate.
Teller looked at it, said, yeah, no, you're good. It's a legit check. And says, yeah, I even have the receipt. Nothing to worry about. It'll clear.
The bank draft did clear, but 2 days later it was declared fraudulent and the money was removed from his account.
100% fake. So, of course, I'm in shock. And, oh, my God, like, it's all our money. Like, we're in overdraft at this point. And
Scotiabank told CTV News Scotiabank does not have a comment for this story. Bennett banks with Desjardins. A spokesperson said when the draft was found to be fraudulent, it was returned and the funds withdrawn from the account. This person has been the victim of fraud.
We are finding that in-person fraud is being committed with some frequency.
Title insurance company FCT raised concerns recently with a study that showed criminals are now using new technology to create fake bank documents.
They are leveraging, these fakes that are virtually undetectable to the human eye.
In the end, Bennett's insurance company agreed he was the victim of theft and decided to cover the loss of the $108,000, which was a relief for him.
It means we can continue on and just keep doing what we've been doing and kind of put it behind us. We'll be extremely careful going forward. We're very lucky.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Toronto area home sales fell last month as buyers weighed out trade uncertainty. Home sales in the GTA dropped 23.3% in April compared to this time last year, but sales were up nearly 2% from March 2025. There are 8% more new properties listed compared to last year, and the average selling price was around $1.1 million, down more than 5%. Toronto's real estate board says if Canada-U.S. trade relationships improve, there could be an uptick in home sales.
Canada's Wonderland is being sued by the Competition Bureau over its online pricing. The watchdog is accusing the amusement park of advertising misleading prices online because they don't include mandatory fixed fees of 99 cents to $9.99. The Bureau has filed an application with the Competition Tribunal that would force Wonderland to pay a penalty and restitution to affected customers. In a statement, Wonderland says the allegations are unfounded and denies engaging in so-called drip pricing. Coming up, we'll show you the highlights from last night's Met Gala as fashion's biggest night brought out a host of new and novel looks.
It's known as fashion's biggest night, and this year it didn't disappoint.
Some of the biggest stars on the screen, sports, and in music hit the blue carpet for the Met Gala last night. CTV's Andrea Case has more.
For black men and fashion, the 2025 Met Gala was hundreds of years in the making. The theme for the gala and the dress code were inspired by Monica L. Miller's 2009 book, Slaves to Fashion, Black Dandyism, and the Styling of Black Diasporic Identity. Event co-chair Pharrell Williams wore a blazer with 100,000 pearls.
Dandyism, which in my mind is a sport. It's how you feel when you get up in the morning, where you're going, and what the climate or the environment is going to be like.
ASAP wore an outfit designed by himself, but it was his partner Rihanna who pulled focus as she revealed the couple is expecting their third child. Black dandyism dates back to England in the 1700s when slave owners who wanted to flaunt their wealth began dressing their slaves in expensive clothing, creating a dandified black servant.
I mean, yes, we are special and unique, and we should be celebrated all the time. So it's nice to have a night where that's happening.
We're celebrating ourselves. Simple as that.
This is a dressed-up barbecue.
It's a big deal. We don't necessarily get the chance to be in these spaces with a large group of us, expressing what it means to be in fashion, expressing what our history in fashion has been. A lot of it has been lost. So to be able to express that here today through fashion, it means a lot.
The event is a fundraiser for Costume Institute at $350,000 a table and $75,000 for a single ticket, if you could get one. This was the most successful fundraiser in the event's 77-year history, raising $31 million. The Superfine Tailoring Black Style Costume Institute exhibit will be on display from May 10th to the 26th. Andrea Case, CTV News.
I've got to step up my game.
I know those are amazing looks. I don't know if this is the venue for Met Gala outfits, but still, yeah, amazing. Weather-wise, what do we need to know?
We need to know that we have a chance of showers for this afternoon, but it is a drier day, and the next couple of days are looking not only warmer, but sunnier too. There's overnight. Here's tomorrow's forecast high, 20 degrees. And let's take one more glance at that 7-day forecast. Nathan and Michelle.
Right. Thank you, Lindsay. And that is CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and the whole team here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Dowd. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great day.
See you.